Welcome to Lucid Dreaming in the Cube of Space with the alchemical Cabala. This week, we come to the teacher key on the Cube of Space. So, if you haven't memorized the currents, be sure and do that. It'll come in very handy for you down the road. So we've been traveling along the east below current here, the back of the cube, or the front, whichever way you want to look at it. Right here on the chariot. This has been the current we've been following, the east below. It runs on the underside or the subconscious side of the cube in the east, the Empress, and it flows from the north to the south. Now, look at the currents. You have the chariot flowing this way, and you have the moon, right? The ruler of the subconscious flowing this way. That's why you want to memorize these. So what this shows us is we only have one option now. There's literally one option with the cube of space for us. And that current is the current of the teacher, which is the path and current of Vav. The Hebrew letter Vav means nail. And it's that which holds all things together. It is the intelligence which connects all things. So remember, we started at the emperor over here and descended from above to below and went down here. And this is the path of reason. And we opted to come this way, the path of speech and the defense of Kaith. So our reason has been exhausted because it's reached its point of limitation, which is the whole purpose of the aspect of creation. For a thing to be a thing, it must have a perceived limitation. And we create these fences and limitations through speech. Well, now we have come through the current of the chariot and Kaith, where we learn to follow the way. Following the way is the way of mastery. And now we come to a need of wisdom and counsel as to the way to go. And this is precisely where the teacher comes in. We all have and are connected to a very real, infinite intelligence and wisdom. It's not just for special people. If you're here and you're a human being, this is available to you. And we receive it through active learning to be actively receptive, learning to be quiet and still enough to hear the still small inner voice. This takes a sincere desire to hear this voice. And it requires the ability to keep our awareness in one area long enough for us to receive our inner instruction and guidance. This is just like any other skill in the tarot. You must practice this skill to learn to trust in it and recognize the one voice whenever you hear it, however you hear it, and under any circumstance. So then, please take a few deep abdominal breaths, relaxed. Fill your lungs and abdomen and really circulate the life force within your vehicles. And let's simply sit here in silence and stare at the imagery of the teacher key. And I'd like you to stare at this key for as long as it takes just to memorize the major patterns and figures of the key. Now close your eyes and hold that imagery within your awareness. Relax, deep breathing, and just simply observe what comes forth within your awareness. Active receptivity, no forcing anything. If it helps, hold your attention in the space between thoughts that occur to your consciousness. Relaxed and centered in the very core of yourself. Simply watch and wait. Watch and wait in silence to see what your next thought will be. Try to stay in that state for as long as you are able. Once you have found this space, simply breathe, stay present with expecting awareness. The teacher is always with us, always with you. staying present in this space, please unmute yourselves when you're ready. One at a time, gently open your eyes and share either what is occurring to you, what you may have heard or hear, or what occurs to you in the key on the screen before you.
Yeah, for me, the teacher became invisible, and then there was a lot of movement, um, invisible, but movement behind that. And then I had this feeling of real excitement, um, like kind of like a kid, and just being really excited about this. And then my eyes started to itch, and then I opened them.
Excellent, Lucette. Thank you. I hear you. It is very exciting. Is there anything else you wanted to add to that?
They were like they were like balls, and maybe it was the crown chakra on the head of the two before, but they're like balls moving around, and that's it.
Okay, cool.
But all of it invisible.
Yes, yes. Excellent.
Just show briefly that the just the statement that came up was like wisdom is the teacher. It makes sense. Like it
Yeah.
was because and just kind of staying in that space. Hmm, to phrase it. That's just was coming with just the experience itself as a teacher, the depth, the richness of experience. Really, because what as I was taking in the image and just resting into it, allowing it to just kind of process the it was just with both the two yes acolytes right at the base and the the spot at the back of their head and how
Mm-hmm.
there's that the the light. I was thinking of like the just kind of like that's this is where it starts getting like morphing a bit. It was just kind of like that's the because thinking the conscious and subconscious and just kind of how the one is receiving and one is prayer hands and open hands, but really the fact
Yes.
that the whole it's funny because I to provide context, I was just having this and I'll bring up the reason why I bring this up for the context of the thing I had noticed with regards to learning a language. Um, the I recently picked up another language, and it wasn't so much learning the language and memorizing words and all that, but it was the emergence of language. And
Hmm.
the point that I was making to the friends that I just seen was the fact that the part that was fascinating that I related to and associated with the fact that with the sound and with I mean even the words I'm saying right now and all that there isn't so much here's the grammar and the translation, it's just the understanding, it's just the there is no efforting in that space, and so it's just there. And so I say it because when I started learning this language I noticed when I really started feeling like oh there's a like it was really happening was when I was overhearing conversations, but there was no effort in overhearing the conversation. It was
Hmm.
purely I was focused on something else, and out of nowhere, just this kind of collision of like recognition that like oh I understand what they're saying, and so my point is. and this is where I come with is the fact that it's first, and again, this is that non-dual stuff of the first is the understanding, then there's the recognition of the understand, the understander. It's like first there's the teaching, then there's the teacher. First is it, and so it becomes this thing where it's not so much the object or the thing or the material or the identification. It's the essence, the perfume, that ethereal thing of just the recognition of the recognition of, oh, I see it, but it's not. It's that removing the impersonal aspect. So to get to that impersonal aspect, when I was looking at this key and just seeing the two, kind of and portals, if you will, of just this conscious subconscious thing, just imagining that when truth is there, when wisdom is there, when there is, the unassailable truth, absolute, the true thing, it's not a thing per se or an idea, but it's just there's a deeper thing. There's something deeper there. And so that's where the whole thing of, well, it's not so much the figure, there's a teacher and the figure is this, and they have this type of like whatever, but it's more of the fact that it's the wisdom itself that is there. The wisdom is the teacher. It's not the
Mhm.
vessel as to how it's carried forth. There's,
Yes.
thousand expressions for it, but underneath that, stripping away the Maya, the form, the object,
Yes.
all that
Yes.
is that. So hence where that it just kind of like came up where it's like, no, wisdom is the teacher. The
Yes.
with the
Beautiful.
essence.
Beautifully said, Easy.
Gotcha.
Absolutely. And the whole temple of the teacher is the gray, pearl gray
Yes.
of Hokmon wisdom.
Yes. Exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
Mhm.
It's that it the immersed experience that there. I mean, that's where it can start going all the different ways and expressions and means, and it's actually something I was journaling on earlier today, but just more of kind of reflecting. And I'll say this last bit and wrap it up, but just I was reflecting back, and actually I can pull it up right now, just reflecting back on certain moments, the points where small little, and I'll get a little concrete with like my own life, and I'm sure, I imagine maybe had this experience where things that may have been, there's a number of things I can point to in my own life where there have been seemingly small, insignificant, throwaway little things that occurred, or a little thing I heard or picked up, but it was almost like a seed that was planted because as time went by, just randomly, it's like, oh, there's a relevance here. There's a meaning. There's something deeper here. And it's not an efforting per se, but it's kind of this, the profundity of the wisdom that unfolds itself across time and experience. And so it's like and there's certain things that I've found in my life be rather just valuable, and something where it's like, no, there's a deep wisdom there, and I appreciate it, but it's that thing of, it's only the happenstance, almost like stumbling across a rock that turns out to be a giant nugget of gold, and you're like, well, I don't know what this is, but it's
Mhm.
only until later on where it's that recognition, like, oh,
Right.
there's a
Yes.
lot more value here, there's a lot more and then that's the deeper
Yes. It
wisdom.
reminds me of that saying from the Gospel of Thomas, pick up a stone and I am there. Chop a piece of wood and I am
Mm.
there.
Yes, yes, exactly, exactly.
Wow.
Yeah,
Thank you, Easy.
thank you.
Anyone else have anything they'd like to share about their inner experience, the key,
Yeah,
and any? Mhm.
oh, excuse me, sorry.
Please go ahead.
I noticed the hands are up and sideways, and they're aligned of the acolytes. Is that what you call them? The hands are in a line, in two lines, with the
Yes.
teacher.
Right. Okay. Hmm. Yeah, so are you talking about the figures below or the
Yeah,
teacher
yeah,
themselves?
the figures below.
Yes. So
The, yeah.
what do you make of that? What do you make of that?
Uh,
There's no wrong answer.
well, it's kind of like a square, but it goes up.
Uh-huh.
I mean, a rising cube of space. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I see it exactly. It's like the
Yeah.
current coming up, right? And it's the crossing of the lunar and solar currents here in the Keys.
Mm,
Now, you know how and you see a lot in like the Hindu figures, their deities will have like multiple arms.
yeah.
Okay? Something I'd like you all to think about as you work with the core practice this week is being the entire key in your inner stance, your inner state, so that your self-conscious mind is doing this with absolute focus there at the bottom right, right here. And what you're going to do there is ask a specific question. And there's nothing too trivial to the teacher. You can ask what do you want me to do right now or today? Or what do you want me to do about this? What would be wise about this? What do you want me to know right now? Whatever speaks, there's nothing too trivial, but you focus it in the self-conscious. And simultaneously, I want you to see yourself inwardly as being open-hearted and receptive, like the figure here at your left. So you're like one of the many-handed deities. Your two hands are giving complete devotion to the inner self and teacher, and you're being completely receptive, but simultaneously, with all of your desires, which are the red roses on the subconscious cloak here. Who else?
Oh, I was just going to say real briefly that it just falls in line. I think we were having a discussion about this recently, and this always comes up. But that the way I tend to phrase like questions are the answers, But that
Mhm.
I love the way that was you're articulated because it's that thing of the willingness to ask the question and then being open to
Yeah.
whatever, it's the to echo a
Yes.
very wise person, right? They say, show me more, all that
Yes.
is there.
Yes.
And
Yes.
but that
That's what,
question being asked first and then allowing to
yep.
to receive whatever that answer may be
Yes.
like, it's really cool. So yeah, just thanks.
100%. The show me more mantra is wonderful because it puts you in this state all the time. It's really remarkable. It's quite a teaching.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Anyone else have anything they'd like to share?
Well,
I
I
have
take off
something.
on what Easy said about show me more, the hands. You look at the hand of the teacher, and he's got two fingers bent down, so you can't see everything. And it's a symbol of all you see is not all there is.
Yes.
So in doing so, whereas if you go to another card, he's got his hand completely open, the devil card, whatever you want to call it. So here you have all you see is not all there is, which is to say, be quiet and wait for the rest, is what I'm getting. So as Izzy said, you ask a question and then you get a response. You don't figure it out. You don't do it because you can't see everything, but you have access to seeing everything through the Akasha, through the mind of creation. And therefore, that will make you wise. And I find that I was looking at the paths that the card connects, and that so stands for the card, which 2, which is wisdom, as it mentions wisdom for the gray background, which is the combination of black and white evenly, and divine life on the tree of life. And it says, through me, its unfailing wisdom takes form in thought and word. So it's coming through, but you're not figuring it out. And then it arrives as you go down the tree to memory and mercy. From the exhaustive riches of its limitless substance, I draw all things needful, both spiritual and material. And it's like you got it all if you let it go through you. And I kept looking at that going, boy, that works very nicely. You remember who you are in the memory in the 4th Sephirah. You remember who you are because you've allowed the teacher to work through you. When a person teaches, whenever you ever had to teach somebody something, even if it's a minor thing like how to run a photocopy machine, when you teach, you learn more than the person does because you're allowing information to flow through you. And then the mercy is you have patience and consideration created because you know others don't see all that. So it allows you compassion. So you come, when you allow the teacher to teach you, you arrive at the place of compassion and mercy. And all the riches of the world are at your fingertips because you don't do it. And so the hand with the cross on it, all you see is not all there is. And if you buy into that, the entire world is yours, according to the combination of the Sephirah that he links. It just all kind of nicely goes together. And of course, the cross is to allow ourselves to hear the voice within and not try and figure it out ourselves all the time. Even if you don't get an answer right away. So amazing. This card says so much. All the wisdom which is behind him, the throne that he sits on, the cube of space, all of that is accessible to us. And it looks kind of plain. It's just gray. And the wisdom of the mind of creation, which is willing to share with us if we don't figure it all out. We just asking a question, like you said, Christopher. Show me more. Tell me more. Okay, I'm waiting now.
Yep.
Come on, come up with something more.
Yes.
And just smile.
Yes.
And it comes through. I think he's smiling too.
That's beautifully said. Thank you, Mariah.
Yeah. Sometimes I don't look at the two spheres on either end because you talk about them, and then I went, oh my God! If you're coming from above to below, which is where the energy is coming through the teacher, it's coming from above down. Then the riches of the limitless substance are totally available to us.
Yes, you're a wonderful example, Mariah, of the function of intuition. So thank you for that.
Absolutely.
Thank you for being a channel for the wisdom. So much so that half of everything you shared is in the rest of the lesson. So
Oh, sorry.
no, don't be sorry. It's
everyone
perfect.
here is receptive, so it just comes through.
Yes.
See, that's the trick. Is you have to have, when you teach, you have to have someone receptive in front of you, and then
100%.
it comes through you, and you go, I never thought that before. That's kind of cool.
It's very cool. All right. I gotta keep it to an hour. Is there anyone else that would like to share anything on the key before we move forward?
I'd like to share something.
Please.
I started out thinking about how the cube of space on the east side,
Mm-hmm.
how the current goes around the Empress.
Mm-hmm.
And then I noticed the 4 circles, the 2 gray ones and the 2 white ones on the teacher.
Mm-hmm.
And I
Yes.
just
1, 2, 3, 4.
waited
Yes.
to see what would come with me with those 2 images, and I felt it swirling around.
Ah,
I can going from one circle to the next, and I just waited, and then I felt this. I felt like the golden energy going up his staff,
lovely.
and then his head just kind of started glowing this really beautiful yellow circle.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful.
And it made me feel like an anticipation of that last edge on this current, the top edge.
Mm-hmm. Wow. That's quite powerful. Thank you for sharing that, Susan. And I don't want to interrupt you. Was there more?
That's it.
Okay,
Thanks.
that's plenty, but thank you. So I want to stress this to everyone because we discussed before we started recording what we'll be doing after the cube course, which would be another couple months, but we're going to do the middle pillar. Well, this is the staff that the teacher's holding and has complete mastery of. The golden staff, the middle pillar with all 4 levels of the tree. This is the crown, the divine self of Keter, right? Then you have the empress, right? The creative, the causative plane, right? Then or Tiferet, if you will. Then you have Yesod, the formative plane, the moon. And then down here you have the foundation that becomes Malkut. This is the central column and the central pillar, which is centered, but you'll notice the teacher biases towards the pillar of mercy and not severity. The cloaks are both because we have to have a balance of both. But if it weren't, what's the saying? I desire mercy and good for us. So this is what the next course will be working with is learning to like Susan was saying, connect to this energy consciously to be able to really connect our whole self from our highest to our lowest. All right, let's move forward. Thank you everyone for sharing.
I noticed one thing. Can I just say
Okay,
this? At
yes.
the very top of his turban, which is yellow, also signifying the different planes in the middle path, right?
That's a great pickup. Yes.
Look at that. It's gold up there.
Up here. Yeah.
It's the first time I've ever seen that little piece of gold.
Yeah.
Which is one of the pieces of the keys of the kingdom below at the teacher's feet. And I just thought that was really cool. First time I ever saw that.
Very cool. And see the top of the crescent here at the throat. All right. Wonderful. Excellent. Everyone. Thank you. As always, wonderful insights. Thank you for sharing them and your light. So we'll get through this and we will reinforce what one of our overachievers here. It's what you get when you get master teachers in your class. Okay, hold on a second.
Yeah, the teacher's edition.
The teacher's
book over
edition,
there.
yes. Love it. Okay. All right. Let's share
I will say
this.
the gold at the top of the crown was something Mother insisted on changing. It wasn't gold to begin with.
Hmm.
It
So
was a
on
little
the
thing.
tree of life, the teacher key, which Easy brought up and Mariah, connects the sphere of wisdom, which we know the simple tree is divine life. It's the breath. It's in the breath. It is divine life everywhere. And it connects wisdom to the sphere of memory or mercy. And I was going to ask someone to state the number 2 truth about the self on the pattern, and Mariah did that for us. But I will say it again, and I want you to think about this. This needs to be part of how you identify with yourself. Know that this is really how the self operates. Through me, its unfailing wisdom takes form in thought and word. This is the exact truth and wisdom of the teacher. Trust that this is within you and available to you at all times. Learn to listen until you hear. And if needed, when you do receive your instruction, you must act on what you receive. This is the second part of the teacher holding the 2 fingers up and concealing, right? The part is not all is revealed, but when you trust and act on your inner instruction, that request for show me more is filled. You then prove to yourself, your personality, that this is real, that the self is real, and that you can trust in the self. So, a couple of interesting things. We know the teachers on the eastern face of the cube, which again is the Empress, which in the Western tradition is the wheel of light at the throat chakra center. We just went through the path of speech with the chariot, and now we're ascending up the current and path of the teacher key. Does anyone know the sign associated, the astrological sign associated with the teacher key offhand?
Taurus.
Taurus. Oh,
Yes, it is Taurus. Thank you. And does anybody know what part of the body traditionally Taurus rules?
Throat.
Perfect, Victoria. Thank you. Can always count on you for on the spot. Yes, the throat. So isn't that interesting? So we see the crescent on the teacher's throat area. The empress is the vortex of light here. And the function of interior speech is all here in the East, where creation begins. So excellent. All right. So I'm just going to make this super simple. We're almost done here, but here's the bottom line. The bottom line is this. You must learn, just like you must learn to look within until you see, you must learn to listen within until you hear. The teacher key is the perfect formula to place all the aspects of your consciousness remember to place yourself into the key this week. This is the formula to receive your inner instruction from self. This key and formula instructs your subconscious to bring about this state of consciousness, which in the Sephir Yetzirah, which is called the triumphant and eternal intelligence. That's quite a name for an intelligence. But that's what this is. You are connecting to the triumphant and eternal intelligence. So this week, make it your primary goal to hear the voice within you and to know it for yourself. If you already know the voice of the teacher within, wonderful. Then make it your goal to strengthen this connection between your person and your true self consciously. You may also use this, which I sent out in the email, as a focal point for meditation if you wish, in addition to the teacher key itself. This is the tatva of the gold square and the Hebrew letter Vav. This is very potent and effective also. All right. The last thing I want you to keep in your thoughts about this key this week and really ponder is to know this about the one true voice. And that's this. It's very often the interior, still small voice within is just that. It's not a metaphor for something else. It is literally hearing and a small, still voice in the deep recesses of the quiet within you. The other thing that is true regarding the one teacher that I want to convey to you is that this voice is able to come to you in absolutely any form, through any person and through any medium. You can hear this voice, your voice, the voice in a class, in a book you're reading that was written 2 years ago or 4,000 years ago. You can hear this voice watching TV or YouTube or listening to the radio or literally see it on a sign when you walk into a restaurant. This is very real. And the reason this is because the self is all and everywhere, all at once, all the time. In truth, we are never, ever alone. So our task is to learn to recognize the voice of the teacher everywhere we go and trust him. Know this. The teacher only wants the absolute best for you. And this intelligence, which is triumphant and eternal, sees the vastly large picture that our small persons do not. You might consider requesting to meet the teacher when you find yourself lucid dreaming the next time. Your intention and purity of heart are the most important things to remember for this. Do not put this off. Make this connection in your own self with the teacher more real for yourself this week and this year. And the main way to just do this is to just practice and expect to receive your guidance until you do. The voice of the teacher is like that of the holy guardian angel. It will always, always guide you truly. Thank you for your participation and sharing your light and wisdom. This concludes this portion of lucid dreaming, the teacher in the cube of space. The floor is now open for any questions or comments.
I have something about the word, the letter Vav is on the card. It looks like a little hook, but it's also an and, like A-N-D. So it's
Yep.
a connector between two things. So the
Yes.
teacher is the connector
Yep.
to both realms.
Excellent point. Thank you, Mariah. Does everyone
Yeah.
understand what she's saying about that, about the letter Vav? This little, this
In
one letter.
Hebrew, yeah, in Hebrew it means hook, nail, or connection, or the word
Yes.
A-N-D, and. This
Right.
and that and that.
It's like the English transliteration for and. That's why you see it in the tetragrammaton of Yod He Vav He is all that was, all that is, and all that will be.
A
And the
great
beauty
letter.
of this is when you go into meditation, it's the same thing as show me more. It's like what's next? And it never ends. It's the eternal consciousness.